All right. This video is going to be about trying to teach you how to make a quiz question where every student has a different question. So that even if they are working together on a quiz, that they can all do, they all have their own problem that they still have to solve in order to get it right. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm just in Canvas right now. So I'm going to scroll down to my sandbox and I'll start a new quiz here. All right, so I'm going to go down to quizzes. I'm going to add quiz. Now this option is only in the new quizzes option. Classic quizzes still has a few things that are useful, but I think that the options that the new quizzes have for different question options, I think is better. So I'm going to do it, this is only an option in the new quizzes here. Okay. This used to be called Quizzes Next. Same thing. If you're used to that old name. All right. So I'm going to submit that for new quiz. Okay. Just going to title it practice quiz. All right. 10 points is fine. It will show up in your assignments. All right. I'm not going to worry about due dates, but obviously if you want to put that in your own quiz, you can do that. Save. All right. So I'm going to add, I'm going to press this blue button in the middle to add content. And you're going to want to choose the formula option here. All right. So if you're familiar with this quiz type or not, I don't really do question title. If you want to, you can. I don't tend to think that it's very useful. I tend to put everything in the question stem. All right. So that's a really simple thing here. So I just clicked in the box right here, the add question stem, and this text box opened up for me. Let's do a really simple density question first. Okay. So let's do a mystery metal has a mass of 30 grams and a volume of 10 milliliters. What is its density? Okay. So if you put this in just like this in a normal quiz question, you could have a fill in the blank answer or a numerical answer, or you could have a multiple choice option. But in all those cases, a student who did the problem could simply just tell his friend what the answer is, and that friend would not have to solve it. But we're going to change these numbers so that every kid gets a different set of numbers. Okay? To do that, to tell the question what you want it to recognize as a variable, we need to read this section up here. All right. It says you can define variables by typing the variable names surrounded by backticks. Okay. So a backtick is, so I'm going to change this 30 here to an X. You can use any letter you want. I'm going to do the classic X value. Okay. And a backtick is not a single quote. So that's a single quote, right? Or apostrophe. That's over by the L key. That's not what you want to do. Okay. You want to do a backtick, which should be in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. It should have a bit of an angle to it. Okay. I'm going to put a backtick on each side of that X. And if you do it correctly, then this variable menu should pop up for you down here. Okay. Now I could leave it like that, and every student would have a volume of 10 milliliters, but a different mass number. But I think for just to make sure that it's really random, I'm going to change this as well to a variable. I'll do a backtick, Y backtick. Okay. So now let's move on down to the answers here, the variables. So for the variables, the X I had as 30 originally, as the mass of 30 grams. I'm going to change this to give it a range. All right, so I had 30 grams before. So let's give it a range around that. Let's make it 25 and 35. Okay. And the range down here before, the value before for the volume was 10 milliliters. Let's make this 5 and then 15. Now, if you're concerned about sig figs, that's not really built into this program. It's more the program is more concerned about decimals. So if you want it to be sig fig accurate, you have to make it so. So if we put 1 decimal place for each of these here, for example, now these 3 have 3 sig figs, but this only has 2 sig figs, and so the program won't know how to recognize sig figs. So I'm gonna make sure that we have all the same sig figs to make it consistent. So I'm gonna make this one 10 instead, and this one 20. Okay. And now they all have 3 sig figs. If you don't care about sig figs, then you can do whatever numbers you want there. Okay. I know some teachers really wanna hammer that in, and some teachers it's not as big of a deal. All right. So for formula definition, this is where we're going to put in the formula for our values. Okay. And as you all know, density is mass divided by volume. And so my mass is X, my volume is Y. So for my formula, it's just going to be X divided by Y, just like that. Don't need an equal sign. It says an example, put quotation marks. You don't really need that. Just the X divided by Y. Okay. Moving on down to generate possible solutions. All right, so now here it's going to show us the possible solutions that this could give a student. Okay. If I press the generate button, it gives all those options. Now you'll notice here that my results here are in just 1 sig fig, 1 decimal place. And so I'm going to change this to 2 decimal places, okay, and then generate again. And now all of my question numbers will be 3 sig figs, and all of my answers will also be 3 sig figs. So again, if you want to make sure that it's compatible with sig figs, you have to build that in. Okay. Again, the program is more concerned about decimal places. If you want to display it as scientific notation, you can do that. I think for this problem, obviously, it's not really much help. So we're going to take that off. And each time you want to edit this, you have to press generate again before it will allow you to move on. Okay. And if you wanted to check each one of these answers to make sure that it's right, you could. It gives you all the possibilities that the computer could give a kid. All right. And with 200 different possibilities, the likelihood of any 2 kids getting the same answers are very, very low. Okay. And also, because of how I did it, the top number should always be bigger than the bottom one, right? Because if you look at my number, my options I gave it, again, about sig figs, I made sure that this was 25, this was 20, so that this number is always bigger than this number, so it should be always greater than 1. If it was less than 1, obviously we would only have 2 sig figs, and that would be a problem. Or even 1. All right. And so that's all you have to do there, and you press done then. Okay. And it's going to give me one option here. If I refresh the page, it's still going to give me the same 29.4 choice. And so I believe every time you come in here, it's going to maintain that same number there. But if you do preview, just to show you that it will give you a random number. So in this case, it gave 31.2 grams and 17.3 milliliters. All right. If I exit preview and go back in again to preview, it should generate a new combination. which it does. Now it's 31.0 and 13.3. Okay, so every kid should get a different response here. It also makes it really nice for retakes. If all your questions are like this, you can give a kid just reopen it again, and it should give them different numbers. Okay. So that was a really simple one. As you get used to that, to how that works, you can kind of add in a little bit more complex things to make it more how you want it to be. I'll show you an example of that really quick. Like with this other tab here. This is a quiz question that I used for physics this last year. And so what is the mass of protactinium in the following alpha decay equation? Okay. And notice here that I get a value here for the mass, and it says what is this new mass here? Okay. And so what I can do here is give this a range so that every student will have a different number for the mass of neptunium, and then their answer for protactinium will be different for every student as well. Okay. To do that, though, to make it look like this, I was trying to find out how you can get a subscript and a superscript for these values, and I couldn't really find much on doing both of them together. What I did find is how to do a matrix, a 1x2 or a 2x1 matrix. My matrix algebra knowledge is a little out of date, so I can't remember exactly what with a 1x2 or 2x1 there. But basically, by creating this matrix here and putting my variable in this spot, I was able to make this question here. So I can show you what that looks like. Really quick, I'll edit a copy. All right, it's a little complex here, but what we had to do is this binomial function here. Okay. And I kind of played with the font size to make it fit right. Right. And so if you wanted something like that, you can basically, again, we just Google this value here. We can just copy this over to our new one. All right. If I want to do that, do again another formula question. Oops, that didn't work. Go back over here. Copy. Paste. Okay. And what that is it's a backslash parenthesis backslash. Okay. And then the binom for binomial. Right. These funny little brackets. And this is, you notice this is where I put in the x, my variable. Okay. And so for that, I then just looked up the masses for neptunium and given a minimum and a maximum. You can see here what that was before. I chose a minimum of 229 and a max of 235. And then I left this one blank here. Right, this binomial blank. And then whatever this value was for x, you just subtract 4 to get the new mass of protactinium. Now again, in this case, it didn't have many options, right? It didn't have 200 options, so there was only 7 options here, right? So it's possible that a kid could get the same answer as their neighbor, but it's still much less likely. Okay. All right. So again, the more you use this, the more you can kind of play around with the settings and figure out what works, what doesn't. Yeah. And obviously, if you have any questions on how to do this, I don't mind Zooming with you one-on-one. You send me an email, I can work with you. That's no problem. All right. So I hope you have a good night.